We are going to discuss what is going on with Wink Martindale. Man, has anybody redeemed themselves over like a 4-game stretch like Wink Martindale did down the stretch of this 2024 season into the bowl win over Alabama? But could he be one and done? Then, if he does head to the NFL, right, defensive coordinator positions coming at him. He's doing interviews. Who could be candidates to replace Martindale on would be Michigan's 4th defensive coordinator in 5 seasons? And then got some recruiting news, right? There is still room in the 2025 class when we add another superstar, 5-star offensive tackle. That's all coming up on the Michigan Football Report. But some news off the top, some house cleaning. One of 2 players we're now waiting for official announcements, right? Rayshaun Trap Money Benny is returning to Ann Arbor, will be starting on the inside. Kind of, got those rotational minutes, played a ton of snaps over the last couple years in particular, but was never really a true starter, even though sometimes he was listed as a starter where Michigan put like the 3 defensive tackles and put the defensive ends out as like these edge linebackers, but never was a true starter with Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham. Headed to the NFL draft, he will be the anchor of the defensive line along with Derek Moore in 2025. So good to see him back. Still waiting on Rod Moore, All-American, the All-Big Ten player in 2023, injured this year, most likely coming back. Had to officially announce for the 15th, so we're not really sure if he's just waiting on something or maybe not making an announcement at all, but Rod Moore is the last player left on tap. Now, Ohio State will play Notre Dame in the national title game on Monday. I don't know what you think, but Brett, producer Jack out say, Brett filling in. Is this selling yourself to the devil? You win the national title this year, but your punishment is you get Notre Dame and Ohio State in the national title the next game. Is that selling your soul to the devil?
Well, yeah, but you beat this Ohio State team.
That's true. Maybe that's the only thing. But okay,
back-to-back national titles.
Exactly. Back-to-back. Michigan will share if Ohio State wins it, but I can't root for Ohio State, and I know it hurts to root for Notre Dame, but I am rooting for Notre Dame. So let's put out the beat Ohio State again vibes, give that to Notre Dame, give them some luck. They haven't beat Ohio State since like 1936. They're like on a 6-game losing streak to Ohio State. They go big stretches without playing, but actually I think
they just never play.
Yeah, 3 of the 6 games they've played in the last 90 or 85 years or the last 3 seasons, right? There'll be 3 seasons where they played, and prior to that, like 3 in the prior 60 seasons, something like that. And that is it. So comment BOSA. Let's have Notre Dame beat Ohio State again like they did back in the FDR administration of the 1930s. Wink Martindale's Michigan's defensive coordinator. Now, some people, Brett, you might not notice, they were calling him after the Illinois game and maybe some others, that midseason Washington game. People would rename him Stink Fartindale. I never said that. I was never a Stink Fartindale guy. I was always on Team Wink. Wink, yeah, kind of wink, meaning I'm kind of joking. But he really redeemed himself, right? Put on a decent show against Oregon, although they ended up scoring 38 points, tossing a couple fourth-quarter touchdowns. Indiana was a great performance. Northwestern, obviously, a great performance. Ohio State and Alabama. This has been coming on for about 3 days now. Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network was the first one to break the news, saying that he is going to interview with the Falcons and the Colts. That's on Tuesday and on Wednesday. And then is he going to be a candidate for the Bengals job? Was also rumored out there. Now, the Falcons put out that they have interviewed Wink Martindale for their position on Tuesday. Nothing's really happened since. The Bengals were the only other one out there, right? When all this news kind of dumped on Tuesday and on Wednesday, it was an NFL Network and an ESPN report that the Bengals were looking at Wink Martindale. But then this guy from The Athletic, who frankly I had never heard of, but I guess he's an athletic guy for the past 5-6 years, he said the unfriendly history between the Bengals and Wink Martindale. So I'm guessing that's from his time with the Baltimore Ravens, right? Some skirmishes, some things that happened there. So caught up in the conversation with him in D.C. to clarify he is claiming that he is not actually part of their D.C. search. So if Paul Denher Jr. has the inside scoop, you don't have to worry about Wink going to the Cincinnati Bengals, although I think there's like 3 or 4 Michigan players on that Bengals team, none that he coached, but nevertheless, he could have some Michigan friends there in Cincinnati. But here's what my take is. Overall on Wink Martindale, it took a while for the things to come together. And if you had a competent quarterback and you had that defense of the last 4 or 5 games of the year, entire season, I think Michigan's at worst a 10-2 team this past season. Right? A quarterback and just not so many confusing play calls on defense early on. And you take that and go forward. But I was looking forward to some big things from him next year, replacing a ton of superstars on defense. But if he goes, we'll wish him well, but I do hope Michigan finds a way, whether it's through money or, hell, they find a better candidate for those jobs in the NFL and he just doesn't get a job offer. If he does get an offer, though, I think it would be very surprising if he didn't take it, head back to the NFL where he's basically spent his entire his entire coaching career. How concerned would you be for the defense next year, for the trajectory of Michigan program, however you want to take it, with Wink Martindale headed to the NFL, if that's how it plays out? Give me on a scale of 1 to 100 down in the comments. 1, and 1, 2, 3, whatever. If you're not concerned, 100 if you are concerned. I'm going right in the center. I'm going 50. We saw Mike Macdonald leave after the 2021 season. People were panicking then. Boom, Jesse Minter. Jesse Minter, boom, you get Wink Martindale. So I think there's candidates out there, which we will bring you. Scale of 1 to 100. Let me know down in the comments. Now, there's going to be a lot of candidates that come out of the woodwork for the Michigan DC job if, in fact, Wink goes to the pro. But I've identified two that seem to be getting a lot of buzz around the college football landscape, maybe a little pro landscape for DC jobs that I think could be top on Sherrone Moore's list. Number one is Doug Mallory, right? Former Michigan football player, played with Jim Harbaugh back in the 80s. I just kind of was pulling up his resume just to make sure I got the exact correct years here. So all Big Ten linebacker in 1987. So as part of that, was 1 year younger than Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh's last year was in 86. So he was in the squad 84, 85, 86, and 87, all Big Ten in 87. And it's coached everywhere, right? Started with Jim and John's dad, Jack, as a defensive assistant in Western Kentucky back in the 90s. Indiana was the co-defensive coordinator on the LSU National Championship team in 2007 after being their secondary coach, and went on Indiana, Atlanta Falcons, sit in the NFL for about 6 years. And then the past 3 years prior to this, with the University of Michigan, with Jim Harbaugh, with Jesse Minter, and even Mike Macdonald as the lead defensive analyst. He's 60 years old, took a job with the Ravens as their secondary coach, has done a hell of a job. Could he come back to the school? He spent 3 years, 3 Big Ten championship years, 3 beat Ohio State again years, learned the system that they're running in Baltimore that he's part of right now, that Macdonald and Jesse Minter used to win Michigan a national championship and 3 Big Ten championships. We are going to talk more on the potential defensive coordinator candidates in just a moment, but I did want to tell you that today's show is sponsored by Game Time. It's the app that I use to buy floor seats to the Shane Gillis show in Dallas last Saturday night, Brett. It was phenomenally hilarious, right? Phenomenally hilarious. Thanks to Game Time for making sure I got the best deal. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams or comedians play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The 2024 Michigan football season is over, but Game Time is still the perfect app for tickets to see all your favorite teams. You want to see that hot until last night when they lost, that typically hot Michigan basketball team continue this season in the next home game? Game Time. What about tickets to see the number 1 seed Detroit Lions make a Super Bowl run? They're playing this weekend. That is Game Time. I love Game Time. Lowest price guarantee with Game Time. Also, you can toggle on the all-in pricing so there's no surprises at checkout. And you can see your seat from the app. So how about you, Brett? You ever been to buy a seat and all of a sudden like, oh man, these seats are sweet. They're way cheaper than everywhere else. You're behind a foul pole, not with Game Time. I was sitting on the floor, and because of Game Time, I was in the aisle. I gave Shane Gillis a 5 in and a 5 out. Thank you to Game Time. Download the Game Time app now, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Link is down in the comments and the description of today's Michigan Football Report. So Doug Mallory with the Ravens, Michigan analyst the last 3 seasons. I would be excited about this one, right? He was there for the transition, right, of a kind of 9-3, 10-2 program who loses bowl games for 5 years of Jim Harbaugh, 6 years of Jim Harbaugh. Then you turn it around. So he knows the playbook. He probably knows Connor Stallions, right? Maybe he's going to get the scheme going back. Maybe we're doing a little this, a little binoculars, okay? That's fine. And he's clearly, a Michigan guy. I always think that if you saw with Mike Hart, right? You saw with others that Michigan guys, I just kind of feel like they have a little bit more pride in the program when they come back as coaches. And he's been with John Harbaugh this year, and I think that's kind of been the success of some of the things that happen with the Michigan football program is they're bringing an NFL, maybe one of the most consistent NFL pro teams over the past 20 years, 15 years. It's the Steelers, it's the Ravens, it's the Packers, it's the Chiefs. those teams are basically at 10-6 or better every single year, and he would bring that defensive prowess to this Michigan team. So we'll see if Doug Mallory is one and done in Baltimore, back to Michigan. How about this guy, name that's getting a lot of buzz, a little bit of a younger guy. He's about 36, 37 years old, I would guess, based on when he was in college. Bryant Haines was a finalist for the Broyles Award this year. Been with Kirk Cignetti, the Indiana coach, at 4 different coaching stops. So they're attached to the hip. They go first year Indiana, some huge success, college football playoff, 11-1 regular season, only 2 losses they had. Ohio State, Notre Dame, in the national title game. You see the numbers here, right? 6th in scoring defense, 2nd in yards per game, tied for 10th in passing yards, rushing yards there first, sacks there in the top 25. So clearly, taking Indiana, playing a Big Ten schedule that wasn't great, but hey, they beat Michigan, right? They beat Wink Martindale, obviously a different side of the ball. But he could be a pretty interesting candidate for me. Couple interesting facts that may work in Michigan's favor. He happens to have the same agent as Sherrone Moore. You know how these agents like, I'd rather have you with my guy in Michigan. You guys are going to rise together. Okay, Sherrone, make sure you get him some extra press because we're going to try to get him a head coaching job in a couple years. That's how these things work. Another interesting fact, number 2, that probably nobody's talking about. I was just reading his bio. Boom. Where did he go to college? Went to Ball State 2005 through 2008. Who was the head coach at Ball State during all of those seasons? None other than Michigan legendary Michigan head coach, former head coach, Brady Hoke, was there through 2008. Then right after that season, that next year, he went to San Diego State, coached for a couple years before becoming the Michigan football head coach in 2011. So those 2 guys, people saying Lamar Morgan, Michigan's secondary coach, would maybe be a leader internally, could even be a co-DC, maybe in title only. Others saying, some of the Michigan staff, like Mike Elston, the secondary coach that went to the Chargers, maybe Sherrone would look at one of those guys who he passed over last year. But a lot of interesting names. First time I always have to fall is if Wink Martindale went back to the NFL, where he was for the last 20 years prior to the 2024 season. We'll see how things shake out with him. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Michigan Football Report. We're going to talk some recruiting next, and we'll get our subs up. Maybe we'll do a little more videos. We're doing 1 video a week, getting back in the flow of it. Had a lot of things going on. Brett knows better than anybody here. We're redecorating the entire office. We're under construction. There's scaffolding coming down, falling on my head, asbestos. So we're just trying to get studio time to bring you guys video, but all that's coming to an end sooner than later. So hopefully you guys subscribe and get in it, because this spring practice with Bryce Underwood is going to be exciting. How about Ty Haywood? The 5-star that we've talked about over the past couple months has been committed to Alabama since July. Didn't sign with them in the early signing process. If you've seen the show for the past 4 or 5 years, I always say, if you're committed and you don't sign in December, you never end up with that team, and that is what happened here. He decommitted from Alabama on Monday, started putting feelers out there. Michigan's been on him for months now, and what has happened? His first visit will be to Ann Arbor. He probably has already arrived. As you were watching this video, as we're filming right about 4:15 Eastern, probably already on campus, going to spend the next 48 hours in Ann Arbor with Bryce Underwood, Andrew Babaloa, the other 5-star offensive tackle. Bryce has been showing him love on Instagram, right? Kind of putting out a tweet from another media outlet or a post from another media outlet about the decommitment. And then the visit to Michigan, showing him some love. And all the Michigan blog boys, I told you 1,000 times, I'm not trying to be recruiting insider anymore. I used to have some sources, used to put some stuff out. I never felt that the juice was worth the squeeze. We tell you things we know about him. Don't have any inside scoop here, although he's right down the street in Denton. Maybe we should just drive to his high school and talk to him, Brett. I don't know. Maybe we should do that. But I expect him, just based on all the vibes out there, there's a total vibes pick. This isn't insider info, that Michigan is going to land him. That'd be 2 5-stars on the offensive lineman in one class, 2 of the top 6-7 offensive linemen in this 2025 class. Pair with Bryce Underwood. Ideally, those guys can be right tackle and left tackle. Great, you've got 3 or 4 years, maybe not their starters for first year, although Babaloa, I does think, have a better chance than Ty Haywood does in starting this year. He's already on campus. Haywood's not going to enroll, of course, until this summer. Get Bryce Underwood the help he needs. Certainly, we've seen the success this Michigan program could have against Ohio State and against Washington and against other schools, Alabama next year, by bullying them on the offensive line. I need to call up our guy, Larry Ellison. What does he want? He want $1 million a year? He want $1.5 million? Larry, just sell 1/5 of 1% of your net worth. That'd be what, $500 million, right? I think that's the math there. 1/5 of 1%, $500 million. Put in some U.S. government T-bills. Boom, you got $30 million a year just to put into NIL without even hitting your principal. Go ahead and do it. Get us some another 5-star offensive lineman in Ty Haywood. Michigan's quarterback of the future needs to be protected. This is one of these times. You can get 2 5-star offensive linemen. I cannot remember a time, right? I've been following recruiting closely for 25 years. A single time Michigan's ever got 2 5-star offensive linemen in a single class. You pair that with maybe the best quarterback in the last 25 years in the Midwest in Bryce Underwood. You've got yourself a recipe for 2 or 3 more Big Ten championships over the next couple of years, and maybe another national championship. If you guys are excited for the future of Michigan football like I am, comment yes down in the comments. If you aren't, comment no, and then delete YouTube because you're either an Ohio State fan or a bum, and we don't want you. That is the Michigan Football Report. So I'll see you guys next time. Go Blue.